Welcome back. I am Godfrey Eso, your leadership coach and mentor. This video, I would like to remind you that this series of videos is for a specific group of people, young Cameroonians that are applying for the Community Solutions program, which is a leadership fellowship that will run next year in the USA. So we are giving guidance to eligible young Cameroonians to be able to put in a winning application. That said, we have looked at the Sustainable Development Goals as a framework that you can use to determine which problem you are solving in your community. We have looked at how to measure your impact, or how to determine whether or not you are having impact in your community, because at the end of the day it's the results that you create which determine whether or not you're a good leader. If you cannot tell what your impact is, then no need to bother, you're not a leader. So in this video, let us now take a look at your leadership approach. So leadership is not a job. It's the process of rendering service, the process of solving problems. Okay? So when people call themselves leaders, leadership is not a job. And so you should not think that you're not eligible for a leadership training program or leadership fellowship because you cannot find the word leader on your curriculum vitae. If you go through the previous videos, you'll see that if you can point 1, 2, or 3 problems you are solving in your community from that chart of the Sustainable Development Goals that I've given you, then you have checked the first box. You are solving a problem. You are a leader. The next step is if you can articulate the impact that you are creating in your community. If you can state the results you are creating in a quantifiable manner, like say the number of screenings you did for diabetes, the number of women you trained on preparing good nutrition for their children, the number of traditional authorities you talked to regarding gender roles in your community. So you see, everyone is numbers, right? So if you can quantify and articulate your impact, then you've checked the second box. Now, the general myth is that leadership, there are some people who are leaders and others are not. That is a myth. Everybody is intrinsically a leader, because at any given time you are solving a problem and you are creating an impact. The difference is that if you don't have a proactive leadership model, a proactive leadership approach to your activities, then your impact will be wasted. And that is what has been happening with most of you. The young people that I meet during my travels around the world in leadership programs, and some of them who win prestigious scholarships and so on, they usually make me cry, because the things that they get selected for, the impact that they get selected for, is nothing compared to the work that I see young Cameroonians doing. But like I keep saying, Cameroonians generally, they don't have a leadership mindset. And some of you are very lazy. You don't look for information. And so these programs come and go and you never apply for them. So if leadership is not a job, what then is it? Like I've said, leadership is simply rendering service. Leadership is simply solving problems. So you can be rendering service, and you can be solving problems, and you can be creating impact in any capacity. So let us look at those capacities. The first obvious one is that you are managing maybe an NGO, an association, a common initiative group, a faith-based organization, and so on. If you're managing a charity organization, you are a community leader, that is the most obvious one. So if you're not managing an NGO, what else could you be doing? You could be a professional in a domain that features among the Sustainable Development Goals. So if you are a teacher, you're a doctor, you're a nutritionist, you're an environmentalist, you're a water engineer, and so on, you see that's obvious. So you're a professional in a domain that is a Sustainable Development Goal item. Then you may not be a professional. Well, so when you're a professional, you can have a full-time job, right? You can be an employee, you can be a business owner, and yes, you can be a volunteer. So in one of those, in any professional domain you find yourself at any given time, you may own a business, you may be an employee, you may be a volunteer. Volunteer also covers the NGOs. You may be volunteering for an NGO. So in any of those capacities, you can carve a leadership niche and build a leadership profile. So I hope that this presentation has given you some confidence that if you have used the Sustainable Development Goals to identify the problem you're solving, if you have used our impact analysis framework to be able to measure the impact you're creating in your community, and if among the approaches I have named, you can locate yourself, then you are a leader. So in the next videos, we'll be going into greater details about how exactly the leadership activities that people carry out to create the impact that they create.